I just got back from my game and I don't know what it is with me, but all of my games are so long. Like, when I finish my game, it feels like the whole playing hole has left. It's something. I don't know what it is. But I just played a crazy game. It was intense, it was dramatic, but it was pretty beautiful too in its own way. So I'm gonna show it to you. I was playing against a Swedish 75-year-old man called Per-Olof Gromark. I think that's how you, this one I should be, what do you mean this is how you pronounce it? Anna, yours, of course, yeah, this is how you pronounce it. This is my first time actually being able to pronounce a name. His rating was 1884. Now today I had the black pieces, so I knew that obviously it's a little bit harder to win with the black pieces, and my opponent has been 2100 in the past, although with age his rating has dropped a little bit. But I knew that I need to play a good game. Like yesterday, I made the mistake of kind of thinking that my opponent was worse than what he actually was just because his rating was low. So I realized that today I could not underestimate my opponent. I had to go there and just play the best game of my life. Now, before my game started, it was very chaotic because I was having a few technical issues right before my stream, and I hadn't really had time to eat, because I had to fix all of these issues, and they got fixed, but I didn't really have a lot of time to eat. So at 2:57 p.m., keep in mind that the game starts at 3 p.m., I started eating pasta bolognese, and I was trying to speedrun eating it so that I would finish my pasta in 3 minutes because my game started at 3. Now, what ended up happening was that I sacrificed a couple of my first minutes to finish a little bit of my food because I was so hungry, and then I ran up to the playing hall and started the game, but I was a little bit late because of that. Anyways, he went c4, which is a very positional move as his first move, and I replied c5, which is, you know, a lot of people think the most boring way of playing this. I do not think it is the most boring. It's just very symmetrical. So all of these first moves were played pretty quickly. I was just basically trying to develop, and it was completely symmetrical, so was basically playing the same way as him. And now he went a3, and I replied with a5 because I did not want to get into any lines with b4, which is sometimes a little bit annoying. This pawn sacrifice can be slightly annoying. So he went e4, and I replied e5. My mom called this a very sad move to make, but I thought I would end up going here anyways. I could start with going d6, but I thought I would end up going e5 because this was the line I wanted to play. And I immediately knew that the idea here would be for me to play f5 later on. So we developed everything, castles, castles, and he went rook b1. The idea of this is to play b4 at some point. He wants to basically play his knight over here and then play b4. Now here there's a lot of very logical moves that I can play. There is bishop e6, there is h6, there is rook b8. The idea being that if he ever goes knight d5, I can reply with b5, which is my idea here. I did none of those very logical moves. Instead, what I did was a little bit of a, what's the word? Forcing move, not forcing. I was a little bit too eager. That's maybe the way that we can explain this. I went f5. And this is way too early. Like, I should definitely have my bishop out and or at least one of these 3 moves in before I do this. But I just did this 1 or 2 moves too early. And I kind of realized it pretty quickly. But I thought in the moment that it was fine. But I realized that when I did it, he kind of his face kind of went what? And yeah, I realized that I probably played it too early. So he went bishop g5, which is a really good move, pinning my knight. The idea is that after I kick his bishop away, he captures my knight, and I cannot really capture with any good piece. If I capture with the queen, he will bring up his knight. And if I capture with the knight, he will be, well, you'll see what happens. This is what the game was. He will be taking on f5. And now the problem is that I don't have any good thing to take with. If I take back with the pawn, he's going to reply with f4. If I take back with the bishop, then my pawn is hanging. And if I take back with the knight, we can see that all my light squares become very, very weak. So he went b4 here, and this is a really good move. And already now at move 14, I am much worse. He already has almost +2. as an advantage. And this is just because of the fact that my pieces are so uncoordinated and my position is just so weak. My pawns are just so weak, and this hole for the knight is just a fantastic, fantastic one. Square, maybe that's the word. But I played here rook b8. The idea being that I wanted to defend this pawn, and I wanted to, if at some point he moved this knight, to be able to go b5 later on in the game. So he went knight d5. I cannot go b5 because then he will take, and well, after I take back, my pawn is going to be hanging. So here I just went bishop e6. And this was also, you know, not the best move, but already now the position was really difficult to play. Like, objectively, the best for me is just to take, and take. But to play something like that, I think it's very difficult against this pawn. So I went bishop e6, and now he just played a great move. He took here, and when I took back, I was shaking. I realized that I'm, like, lost. It's insane. In 16 moves, I'm lost. And I was just, you know, like, really upset, and I just thought, you know, not again. Like, I'm too tired, I'm not playing well. You know, I started having, like, this long, like, range of, like, negative thoughts in my brain. And I was, you know, feeling very pessimistic about the game, which is something that I typically am not. Typically, I have the problem that even in losing positions, I think that I'm winning. But now it was the opposite. Until he played queen d2. And when he played this move, I just said, wow, thank you. Like, I was so happy because I immediately realized that all my problems would be solved after I go b5, which is just a really good move. What is the idea of b5? Well, the idea is that my main issue in this position is the fact that this pawn is so weak. And that's why for him to get a winning position, he had to go rook b6, threaten my bishop, and then just put a lot of pressure, double up his queen, his rook, everything towards this b7 pawn. And, you know, it's unstoppable. I'm going to lose that pawn, and when I lose this pawn will become weak. This pawn is weak, this pawn is weak. My whole position collapses. Rook b6 is the winning move. But I went queen d2, and now my problems were solved because my b7 pawn was not going to be on b7 anymore. It was going to be a protected pass pawn, which in chess is everything we want. It is one of the strongest pawns you can have. The thing is that he cannot take here, neither with the pawn or the rook, because his knight is going to be hanging then. My bishop and my queen are attacking this knight, so I'll be able to win a piece. And when I did this move, I could clearly see how upset he was because he quickly realized that I had equalized my position. He had missed this move b5 completely. So I was really happy here. He went queen a2, threatening now to capture the pawn, and I just went b4. And now this is a pass pawn that is protected. Very strong. So takes. I was doing pretty good with time. I was playing much faster than the other games. I had 34 minutes left. I was feeling amazing here. He went bishop e4, and when he did this, I thought that this has to be a mistake because I thought that I can go rook a8. I ended up going king h7 first because I realized that I wanted my king to be on h7 defending this pawn, and I did not think that any of these moves bringing in the queen were any strong. So he went knight c1, and I started thinking that, you know, I know that he wants to do this maneuver, but this all felt a little bit slow. But I started thinking down my time, like always. And let me say something. I read your comments, okay? And I know that you guys are telling me in the comments, Anna, just stop thinking so much. Anna, it stresses me out that you think so much. Please, for the love of anything, stop thinking and just make a move. I read this. And, you know, if life was just as simple as that. It is just something that is unexplainable if you haven't played classical chess before, I think. It's very difficult to explain, but I'm just always trying to play the best move, and objectively, it would be much better for me to play a kind of worse move now and then have time for the more important moves later on. But it's just something that requires a lot of training. But I really was so proud of myself because I had so much time this game until this point. And now was when things started going downhill. My time just completely tanked. I was thinking about so many lines. My head was crazy. I couldn't decide what move to do. I was thinking about rook a8. But I ended up going for this move, knight d4. And now he went f3, which was a mistake. He should have gone knight b3, but he really wanted to avoid me going knight f3 check, which is not really a scary move, actually, but I understand why he was scared of it. So he went f3. I only had 8 minutes left. I had 18 moves to do. And I said, oh, Anna, we are in this again. So I like pulled up my sleeves and I was like, it is time now to just play fast and be focused. So here I ended up going rook a8. I wanted to take control of the a file. And now I played rook a3. I was trying to double up. And now in this position, actually, probably my best way of continuing is to capture, and go knight b5. And the idea of this is just simply that I'm going to be able to bring this knight up to c3. If it goes something like knight e2, I have queen g5, and I'm taking up all of these dark squares. Instead, in this position, I believe, an inaccuracy and went bishop d7, which is a move that doesn't do much. My bishop is very passive, and even if I can get the bishop up over here, it's not doing much. The reason I did it was because I knew he wanted to go knight b3, and I wanted to stop his plan, because it felt kind of good to stop his plan, but it's not really a necessary move. Here, also, I should not trade knights. My knight is so strong. This knight is really bad. I traded knights. I was making some inaccuracies here, but everything that I wanted was to bring up my queen and my rook and create, control the a file. Now here he has a crazy line. A line that I don't think he or I saw in our wildest, dreams. He actually can sacrifice a piece. Bishop takes pawn, king takes pawn, queen e4, I cannot go bishop here because there's a fork. After king f7, he goes f4, and my king is so weak that even though he has nothing immediate, it is equal. So he can actually equalize here with this piece sacrifice, but I did not see this. I think this is very difficult to see. And in this position, he went rook b2. He was playing pretty fast because I only had a minute left on the clock, and I think he wanted to put pressure on my time, obviously. So I started doubling up over here. I was still scared of him playing somehow like h4 or f4 or doing something towards my king, but I was very happy when he was just playing on the queen side. And here I just played a few moves just to get closer to time control. So I couldn't really figure out what my plan was, but then after a little while, after repeating, I realized that my plan was to go queen a1, and then at some point try to get my queen in with my rook, or go rook a3, bishop c6, try to trade, and then go rook c3 or bishop e6. But this is my idea. I wanted to trade this bishop for this knight, get my rook to c3, and then I knew I was going to be better. So obviously the difficult part was how to do this. So he went g4, I went rook a3, and he went h4. Now threatening to go h5, which is a huge threat right now. I need to be very careful. So I went b3, and I immediately saw that this works. And now, after b3, I was very happy because I had very little time, but I saw that this worked. And actually here, I probably calculated like 10 moves in advance. Like, I'll tell you what position I saw all the way from here, but I saw very far all the way from this position. So the idea of b3 is that I'm threatening his queen. He cannot take the pawn because I have go rook a2, and I pin the queen, and I win the queen. He must now, well, yeah, actually, it's difficult to say what he must do. But he went queen b1. Actually, his best move here is h5, which is extremely difficult. The idea is that if I take, there's a checkmate in 8 moves. After king here, the rook comes down, and I did not see this during the game at all. But he did not do that. Instead, he went queen b1, and now I have a brilliant move, which was obviously the reason I went b3, which is that I sacrificed my queen by taking his rook on b2. And I was very happy when I saw this whole plan. Like, I had seen all of this from the moment I played b3. So the idea now is go rook a2. He must go queen f2. If he takes here, then nobody is stopping my pawn from promoting. Queen f2. And now I took, and my 40th move was bishop c6. And the reason I did this was because to me, it was very clear that this endgame should be winning with completely precise play. But I knew that I take one little misstep, or I'm one move too slow, and it's going to be a draw. So my immediate thought was that I need to play this bishop versus this knight, because the knight is the slowest piece in the endgame. Because the knight cannot control a whole range of squares. The knight is kind of clumsy, like it can only go to a certain amount of squares. Knight endgames are almost like pawn endgames in the sense that knights can go to so few squares, calculation must be very precise. So I knew that if I played my bishop versus his knight, this knight would have a hard time controlling my pawn from promoting. It would be much harder than for a bishop. So I played in such a way where I would force the trade of these two bishops to end up with this endgame. So bishop c6 is a very important move. And now the idea is just that I'm threatening to take, and promote. He must do something. So he must go knight c3. Now I traded, and I wasn't sure what he was going to take with. He took with the d-pawn, and now the only move that wins any other move, draws, and this is the beginning of a journey, is bishop f6. And I had seen all the way up till this point when I played b3 before. I had seen all of this. So even though I was thinking a little bit here, I had already processed all of this. My intuition had told me this like several moves before. And the reason bishop d6 is so crucial is because I need to, one, threaten this pawn. I need him to push his pawn up to h5. This is the only way I can win. The idea is that if he goes king g3, then this knight will be the only piece controlling the promotion of this pawn, and I will have infinite time to move my king around. And otherwise, he can only go king g3 or h5 to defend the pawn. Any other move wins the pawn for me. So he went h5. Now I took, and the idea now is that whenever I move this bishop, I'm going to have a very clear path for my king to pick up this pawn. This pawn is going to be very weak. And the h-pawn is the best pawn for me to have as an extra pawn because it's the pawn that's the furthest away from the king when I have this passed pawn. But now, once again, I need to play very precisely. And I spent like 15 minutes here because I knew that I had to come up with the winning plan. And I'm very happy with the move that I did because I ended up playing the best move in the position, which was bishop d8. And now the engine is saying that, it's putting a question mark when I'm saying this, but I'm also right now analyzing with a lower engine than what I was analyzing with before. And when I was analyzing it before, it did say that it was the best move. So I know it looks like I'm just inventing this, but I'm telling you. And now, what is the idea? What is the idea of bishop d8? Well, the important point here is that I don't play b2 too early, because by playing b2, I am allowing him a very clear path to pick up this pawn. So my other idea here was to go something like, king g7. I can do something just like this, but after I go king e2, now I'm not really going to be in time anymore, because after I go bishop here, king d3, and I cannot go bishop here anymore. So here I could play something like king f6, but this would allow his knight to be free. This is, a little bit complicated, but the idea of bishop d8 is that after he moves his king, which I was sure that he was going to do, I have this move b2. Once again, I'm telling you, the engine did say that all of this was good before. I'm analyzing with a very weak engine right now, okay? But this is, my mom said also, this is the only winning move. I'm pretty sure. What does this want me to do? To go, but now the engine is going down too. I'm not sure what this thing is doing. Anyways, b2, okay? Now, I am forcing him pretty much to follow, his pawn. He cannot move his knight anymore because then I will be making a queen. So I'm forcing the king to get closer. If the king just spends, infinite amount of time, then I will just be bringing up my king and I will end up winning this pawn. So the idea here is that at some point I'll be able to lock this knight in. So you'll see. So I want king d1. And now I have bishop a5 threatening the knight. He cannot go king c2 because then I will just take the knight and then promote. So he must go knight b1. And now I have king g7 because I am deviating the king and the knight, and the king and the knight are too far away. So after this, I was able to just pick up my pawn, and I just went back. And after king e3, I went bishop b4 so that this knight would never get out, as I am winning all the pawn endgames. And after he went knight d2, I captured, went king f4, and he resigned the game. And I was so happy when he resigned, because I thought that I had played the endgame very nicely. I was really happy with this whole maneuver of bishop d8 and bishop a5. I thought that this was very nice. I'm still a little bit confused why it's now not saying that this was the best line, but I really truly believe that it was, because if something like this, I just want to show you, that is that after bishop a5, king g7, if this king is just stuck over here, here we go. If this king is just stuck over here, I will at some point be able to go bishop e1 check, and after the king moves, I will be able to just go king g5. So this is just completely winning as I'm winning the pawn. I just wanted to check this. But yeah, so I truly believe that my line with bishop d8 and bishop here was the best line. And I'm really happy that I saw this. I felt like I had used all my brain power for this endgame. It was such a difficult endgame, but I was so proud when I saw all of this. And when I won the game, I was just like smiling. I was so happy. And my opponent after the game, he was so nice. He told me, it was a very impressive bishop maneuver that you did. And then he said, you know what I'm happy about? This was a real fight. And I said, yes. He was so kind. And yeah, I think it's amazing. You know, he's 75 years old. He's playing chess for 5 hours. Our game was very long. Not easy when you're older to play chess and have the energy to play such a long game. So I thought it was very impressive. He played very well. And he told me immediately that he was really upset that he hadn't seen this move b5 in the opening. But I am now on 2.5 out of 3 points, which is fantastic. Tomorrow I will probably play a higher rated player with the white pieces. So tomorrow is going to be a super key game for how my tournament goes in this initial part of the tournament. So, you know, I still have chances of winning the tournament, which is my ultimate goal. I'm very happy that I won today. I'm very, very happy. So tomorrow I will have to eat food, be fully energized, get lots of preparation in, and just play the best game of my life. Wish me luck, and thank you so much for watching the recap of round number 3. Now, go and play chess. Okay, bye.